Well, let's start with wishing everybody a happy new year. And I'm going to remember that I'm being translated. My New Year's resolution is to speak slowly for my translator friends. And want to thank them for joining us and helping us today. I think we have the manual translated in 7 languages for this event. And that's amazing. I wonder if the text has ever been translated in some of those languages. So that's exciting. Certainly Geshe Michael's translation I haven't. So I wanted to again thank the translators. Um, Also, Frank, thanks for hosting the Zoom webinar and keeping everything so smooth. And Sophie and a lot of people come to these teachings through the distribution network in various countries. So a big team effort to bring everyone here. So this course with Geshe Michael is called Chakra and Sacred Sound. And before Geshe Michael's courses, we always do some webinars to start to get us in the mood, to help us remember what the heck happened the last course, and to get a bit of a preview for what he'll teach. So I like it because I always get to have a conversation with Michael Johnson, and we get to share some time with you all. So I'll introduce Michael and then what we'll do today. Um, Michael Johnson is our new content creator for YSI. He is responsible for the video we just watched as the warm up, and he studied with many, many, many teachers. And we were just talking. He was at a DCI event in 2010 with Geshe Michael, where they were teaching Lady Naguma. So that has to be about the start of both Lady Naguma and DCI, pretty much. For those that want a good trivia, we'll ask this actually. Does anybody know what DCI was called before DCI? Some New Year's Eve trivia for you. See if anybody gets it in the chat. What was DCI called before it was called DCI? Someone said EBS is close, but not correct. Oh my gosh. Maybe I have to offer money like Geshe Michael. Going once. The first 2 letters are correct. It was called the Enlightened. Yeah, Michael got it. It always ended in I. YSI, ACI, DCI. Third letters of gimme. So it was called the Enlightened Business Institute. And then it morphed into Diamond Cutter Institute. So Michael Johnson teaches at the Ayurvedic Institute of Dr. Lad, very famous, and teaches Sanskrit as part of this program, and has been he's led yoga teacher trainings for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. Long, long, long time. And on top of all of that, is a father and a husband and a good friend and a good person. And I really appreciate those things about him. So he'll join us. He'll lead us in a few poses, or we'll get a little bit of a flavor of this chapter's main points, and we'll get physically in a pose or two. So as we talk, if you need to briefly step away from the camera to clear out a space. We won't be running through a yoga series. It's not like that. You just need a space to be able to sit on a mat or on the floor. We won't be busting into headstand or forearm stands, scorpion or anything like that. But it'd be cool to be able to experience what we're talking about physically. So if you have the opportunity to create a bit of a space for yourself, that'll be that'll be great to get a visceral feel for what we're talking about. So, what are we talking about? We'll talk about context of the text, what it's about, what brought us here, what to look forward to. Um, I'll show a little bit of video from our past retreat, and we'll talk about the content of this text. We'll theoretically have time for a Q&A, and then we'll talk about the specifics of Geshe Michael's course. So that's our plan. Let me check in. And translators, how am I doing? How's my New Year's resolution holding up? All right. Thumbs up so far. This is about how long my New Year's resolutions generally last. We're on day 4. So far, so good. Everybody, this is Michael Johnson. He will be teaching the Sanskrit portion again of our course with Geshe Michael in January. And Michael, I'll give the microphone over to you if you want to say hi, and then if you could place the text, the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, the text. Why is it important? How does it fit in our yogic studies or my life? Why is it an important text, and why it is important to people that are perhaps thinking of coming to the course?
Excellent. Thank you for this kind and generous introduction, Earl Burney. If you don't know Earl, he's an amazing teacher of yoga and a very accomplished meditator who completed a 3-year retreat. And most recently taught a retreat on the Shat Kriyas from the 2nd chapter of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika over the New Year. And look forward to seeing some pictures of that. The Hatha Yoga Pradipika is a pretty important text if you're a practitioner or a teacher of yoga. It's almost a must read, and it is often not covered in most yoga teacher trainings or given the type of attention that it deserves, as it contains a lot of valuable information in one location. Though there are many other texts that have a lot of the similar information, such as the Amrita Siddhi, just pretend I'm holding that up, or the Dattatreya Yoga Shastra, or later the Shiva Samgita or the Yaranda Samgita. These are all Hatha Yoga texts that offer a lot of insight into how we practice yoga today. And the Hatha Yoga Pradipika has all that information in one location. So it's a great text on many fronts. The first chapter is about asana and talks about ethics. Instead of the normal 5 yamas and 5 niyamas, it has 10 of each. It was most likely composed in the 15th century. And the last part of the first chapter is a big emphasis on not only where you practice and the relationships that you keep around your practice, but also what you eat and how you take care of your health through diet. So it's a pretty interesting text. The second chapter deals with when your body is experiencing imbalances, the kriyas that you can use to correct those imbalances so you can practice. And then it talks about 8 or 9 kinds of pranayama that are specifically to detect and direct the flow of subtle energy in your body so that you can reclaim your life. You can abide as you choose. And then we're going to dive into the third chapter, which I'm excited for, which is it's usually called Mudra and Bandha. It talks about 10 different mudras and bandhas, which are terms that are often used in the yoga world today, but not so well understood. So this would be an excellent opportunity to get a very firm understanding of what those things are based on a multi-century tradition, as well as some very practical advice on how to implement these things into how you practice yoga. How's that?
Cool. So speaking of chapter 2, Geshe Michael taught chapter 2 in the fall last year. And it's a very interesting chapter. The text is very interesting because it gives a lot of the practices of Hatha Yoga. And we can think of Hatha Yoga as the physical practices of yoga. And we could differentiate Hatha Yoga and Raja Yoga, perhaps. We've studied a lot through YSI the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, which is considered a Raja Yoga text. And the focus of that text was meditation, was samadhi, deep meditation. The Hatha Yoga, the emphasis is on the more physical. And Michael gave a good outline of some of those physical practices, the breathing practices, the pranayama. And one of them is 6 cleansing practices of, they're called the Shat Karmas or Shat Karma Kriya. And we did a retreat at Diamond Mountain just recently. And we just got out 2 days ago. And so I wanted to show some pictures of that retreat. It was a beautiful, beautiful way to bring in the new year and to really take the time to practice the teachings of the second chapter. And they're a little bit strange. Some of them are quite normal. Some of the cleansing practices, like neti pot, where you pour water in one nostril, it pours out the other nostril. So if we could show that video, here we go. This was the Ride the Tiger retreat. Let's look at the next. So there's our team. This was beautiful Diamond Mountain. Everyone pretending to be doing their favorite Kriya. As you can see, there's some YSI regulars. Lydia was there. She's a YSI teacher. Benji was there. And the co-teacher was Lisa Shrimp. She was my yoga teacher for many, 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 many years. And there's my partner, Sarah. Let's look at the next picture. This was Diamond Mountain. It was so beautiful. Cold in the morning, warm in the day, just unbelievable blue skies in the day. And, we had full moon. We had a billion stars. We had lots of wildlife, deer, something called a codamundi, which is like a monkey cat thing. I don't even know. Big long tails and climb in the trees. And very rare at Diamond Mountain. So it was very beautiful. Diamond Mountain was gorgeous. Let's look at the next picture. There's some more of the images. I wanted to just show off how beautiful Diamond Mountain is. And then here is a couple pictures from the retreat. As you can see, it was a beautiful opportunity to come together in community, to make some new friends. Most people didn't know each other. There's a picture of Lisa teaching the yoga classes, and chance to study the teachings more in depth. Let's look at the next image. Here we are. You can see the picture. We're starting to do the Shat Karmas. So one of those pictures you can see we're practicing the jalaneti, where we're pouring water from in one side of the nose, comes out the other. And from there, if you could, we went doing that with a sutra. And the practices get a little harder. So sutra can mean a thread. And so it's a waxed thread. And so we were putting that waxed thread up the nasal passage and then pulling it out the mouth. And if you've ever done jalaneti with the water, sutra neti, I find uh, much, much, much more powerful. And some of the advantages of these cleaning techniques, what I remembered and what I found right away was it immediately, when I clean the inside of my body, in some ways that are kind of extreme, it makes me really reevaluate what I put in my body. And immediately, some of the food I brought into retreat, I had no attraction for. And some of that was great. And some of it was really sad because I went to reach for my coffee and my body just was like, I don't want it. For the first time in maybe a year, in the morning, I didn't have coffee. And it was just this very quick thing of when I purified the inside of my body, how quickly it changed um, my eating habits. And I'd forgotten about that because I haven't done all of these practices for a while. So that was one of the immediate benefits. And just I think we all found our breathing practices got so much better. And it felt, someone said, it feels like I can breathe directly into my brain. And so we did some more, and then we practiced this one that is a little more fun and a little more extreme, where you try to swallow a piece of cloth. It's called dauti, and you swallow it, and it cleans the esophagus. It's a good treatment for asthma for those that have it, for instance. So I showed a little video of us trying to do this practice next. It's very challenging. Um, I wasn't able to do it, but here's us trying to swallow a strip of cloth. Um, you sip water as you go, trying to help the swallowing process. And here's me and Benji trying to do it. This was the first time I wasn't able to, so it was fun trying. And great practices to do in a group. Um, I hope everyone can see the video. It's a little slow on my end. And then you'll see the next video. Benji and I couldn't do it, but you'll see in the next video, if we can play that one, there was one participant who could do it, who managed to swallow the strip of cloth. And this is Berta from Mexico. She is 70. She came to retreat. And of everybody there, she was the one that was able to complete the practice. This is her doing the Doughty cloth. And she was just calm and quiet and peaceful and no problem. So that was a lot of fun. And these practices are oh, here's the last picture. This was Lisa, who co-taught. She taught a lot of Ayurveda, and we did a lot of. This is us using some nasya oil, some nose oil. Very great for the desert. It's so dry. And we had a lot of fun. So that was the Ride the Tiger New Year's Eve retreat, where we actually did the practices of chapter 2. And I wanted to. I'm still elated and very high from the experience. So I wanted to share some images from that, and we'll look to do New Year's retreats again next year. Maybe not that one, but we'll find something fun to do. But let's go back to our task at hand. That took way too much time. Michael, one of the things that you mentioned in this text is that it's about mudra, a very confusing word, a lot of connotations. And I'm wondering if you could speak to us a little bit about what mudra, the many different meanings are, and what it means in this context.
The word mudra, the emphasis goes on the second syllable. It means seal. And that can be translated in a number of contexts. There's for example, the context of a seal from like a royal king or a queen back in the day when they wanted to seal an envelope, make sure that it was only opened by the recipient. They would have a specific seal that they would use with candle wax. And if you received the letter unopened, then you knew that it was from this person. And lots of metaphors there. In yoga today, a lot of people assume that a mudra is a hand position, such as Jnana mudra, often called Gyan mudra, or Vishnu mudra, utilized for Nadi Shodhana. And in this text, we're going to offer quite a bit more insight on what a mudra is. I first studied this text with Geshe Michael back in 2008, 2009, and learned that a mudra is a combination of a posture, a breathing technique, and a meditation technique combined. So this would only be like 1/3 of a mudra. The other 2/3 would be what your breath is doing and what your concentration is on. And we'll look at how we can practice mudra more effectively, and some very specific ones that I'm excited about. The first one that the text starts off with is called Mahamudra. So I would love to hear what Earl has to say about that topic at some point. But the one of the I think the best reasons to take this course is that it doesn't just present the postures, but it incorporates and emphasizes the inner practices of Mahamudra. Mahamudra is the Great Seal, and it specifically is the thoughts that can bring all the winds into your central channel. There's a posture that I'll show you in a minute that can help move the winds to your central channel from the outside. And mudra in this context allows us to work from the inside and the outside simultaneously. Do you have anything you'd like to add about Maha Mudra?
I was hoping you would talk also about the closing of the circuitry, like Geshe talked about.
Yeah. Another take on Mudra is that you're creating an energy circuit in your nervous system. Can you hear me okay? I froze. Another aspect of Mudra is you're creating a feedback loop or an energy circuit in your nervous system. For example, you have motor neurons, which send signals from the brain to the extremities, and sensory neurons, which send signals from the extremities back to your brain. And the concentration technique, for example, closing a circuit like this, would be a combination of using the breath to concentrate your attention and then move your concentrated attention in this loop to where you're able to heighten your awareness within your body. You're able to develop somatic awareness with non-reactivity, and this can allow you to not only be more aware of what's going on in your body when you're practicing yoga or throughout the day, but make more intelligent adjustments to your posture and to the way the energy is flowing through your body so that you can recover from chronic illness or even prevent it in the first place. A mudra is a very powerful method when it's properly understood and implemented.
Yeah, cool. So Geshe Michael talks about mudra in two main senses, as Michael just described. Um, Combining a posture with breathing and a mental aspect. And that we can see in the text, this progression of refinement of technique or nuance in a way that makes these practices more and more powerful, more deep, more internal, perhaps, or perhaps better to say, combining the outer and the inner. And that's what makes them more powerful. And when Geshe Michael teaches chapter 3, any of the chapters, every course, he teaches in chapter 1, he adds on a little bit of chapter 4. When he taught chapter 2, he adds on a little bit of chapter 4. This time he'll teach half of chapter 3, and he'll add a little bit of chapter 4. And then in the last course, I believe it's in September, he'll teach the second half of chapter 3, all of the rest of chapter 4. So he titled this course, what did he title this course? He called it Chakra and Sacred Sound. So the sacred sound is nada yoga, nada yoga. And that's part from chapter 4. And it's very fascinating. There's a connection between the prana in our body, especially flowing in the center channel. We've talked about this a lot. Prana in the right channel, we can associate with anger. Prana in the left channel with the cool emotions like desire. Our goal is to move the prana from the ha channel and the ta channel to join them into the center channel. So yoga comes from a word that means to join. So we're joining yoga, the ha and the ta channels into the prana into the center channel. So hatha yoga is bringing those two energies of the side channels into the center channel. And when we get good at that, when the chakras start to open or when there's blocks that are released in the pranic pathways, one of the things that can happen is we can hear these, sometimes they sound like sounds, or they can be experienced as internal sounds. And it can be something like various types of drums are described in the text, like a deeper, more drum with a deep resonance, or a more high pitched drum, or like a boom, like a sonic boom when something exceeds the speed of the sound barrier, and there's a boom, like this internal sense. And I was at Diamond Mountain living there, and someone did a month-long retreat, and she came out and she was really very blissful, very happy, had a great retreat, and very deep meditations. And she said, there's just one thing that I didn't understand. And I was like, oh, what was that? She said, why were you playing music so loud every day? And as soon as she said it, she realized that, of course, that's not what was going on. And she was hearing these, I think, having these experiences of this subtle body that was causing her to experience sound. And that's one of the connotations of nada yoga, is these inner sound sensations that can happen when we bring prana into the center channel. And those can be very related to deepening our understanding of emptiness. And so one of the topics Geshe Michael will teach in this program is 6 different ideas about emptiness. He often calls it the 6 flavors of emptiness. They come from 6 different schools of philosophy in the system of Jetsun. And so when we talk about combining the inner and outer, or when we talk about how can we make the physical posture more powerful, and Michael will demonstrate one in a second. That's your cue, Michael. If we can put our body into a posture, we're going to be changing the flow of prana in our body. If we could also then maybe make a more subtle refinement into a mudra or close a circuit pathway, that might make an effect. But then if we could use our mind, our breathing and our mind, now we're using a external method, the physical posture, with an internal method, like putting our mind onto one of these 6 ideas of emptiness. And sometimes Geshe Michael will teach 8 different flavors of emptiness. So we'll see if we get the last 2 in this course. He doesn't teach the 2 higher flavors very often because they're from the Diamond Way teachings. And lucky for us, for those that don't have access to those teachings, there's a huge amount of crossover in the Hatha Yoga Pratipika between what we would normally think of as the foundation program, foundation courses that Geshe Michael teaches for those that understand this terminology, and the advanced teachings, the Diamond Way. And usually those are quite distinct. You study in Geshe Michael's, when he studied with his teachers for 20 years, you learn the foundation for 20 years, and then you start the Diamond Way teachings. So 20 years foundation, then you can start Diamond Way. And this text really gives a lot of those advanced practices within this text. So it's a very beautiful text that way. And Connie and John Brady will talk about this crossover in a program in a week. So 1 week today, we'll talk about that at the end of this class, but they'll illustrate all of this beautiful crossover in those 2 styles of teaching. So a big emphasis on this text, why should I study it? We're going to learn this beautiful idea about how can we make our time on the yoga mat more powerful? How can we get more bang for our buck? Is an expression in English. Hope that makes sense. How can we get the most out of our practice? And the main idea of yoga is what's more powerful is if we can combine the outer method, the physical posture, the breathing, and maybe even a slight mudra, with an inner method, putting our mind on the ultimate nature of reality, and then using both of those methods to hatha yoga, to bring prana from the ha and the ta channel into the center channel so that we can see emptiness directly. So Michael will demo this concept for us in one of the poses called Mahamudrasana. Mahamudrasana.
All right, I'm gonna have to turn off my background so you can see everything. The posture called Mahamudrasana might look familiar to you. We'll see. I'll go ahead and assume the basic shape. If you want to attempt this yourself, consider having a block, a blanket, or a cushion to sit on. for fine-tuning the intensity. So here on my yoga mat, you might recognize this shape here. It looks like what people call Janu Shirshasana. For those of you who have studied deeply, Janu Shirshasana has many examples. For example, Janu Shirshasana A in Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga is where you bring the heel on the other side of the groin, which increases the width between the thighs tremendously. And when you fold forward, you feel it mainly in your lower back. Whereas Janu Shirshasana B is where you sit on your heel. And by lifting your pelvis up off the ground, the perineum is right on the heel with a lot of intensity. I think it makes a lot of people's top 5 least favorite postures of all time list, as it's pretty intense. So Mahamudrasana is neither of those. If you want to do it safely and earnestly, try sitting up on a cushion. Could be a blanket, could be a block, could be whatever you have available to you. And then what you're attempting to do here is place the heel in the perineum, the pelvic floor, with a mild amount of pressure that's sustainable, that doesn't disrupt your nervous system, but you can certainly feel the pressure there. So think about a scale from 1 to 10 and see if you can keep it in the milder side of things, like 1 to 3. So you can adjust the height of your blanket or your block and put a little bit of pressure there. The other part of Mahamudrasana is to grab the foot. Some people need a strap in order to be able to reach their foot pain-free. And some people have a lot of flexibility where they can reach the foot with both hands. However you are, you're even welcome to bend the knee so that you're not causing any pain here or here. For advanced practitioners, you can do this thing called the lock of Nagarjuna. And this is where you bring your hands together and you only keep the ring fingers straight and you cross all the other ones. So I'll do that one more time. It's called the lock of Nagarjuna. The triple warmer fingers stay long. And here you put this over the big toe. So this is one view of it. You're trying to get your triple warmer fingers on either side of the big toe. And using this posture as a way of accelerating the flow of energy in your straight leg, and then sending it into the central channel with the help of the breath. So good old victorious breathing will do, long, gentle breathing. And as you start to send energy to your spine, you can cat-cow tilt the pelvis, rib cage, and the neck in order to keep it there. Wherever you concentrate your attention in your body, energy moves there. So try to concentrate along the spine. And if you were to think about the descriptions of emptiness from the Abhidharma Kosha or the Abhidharma Kosha Bhashya, the Sautrantika position, or the Yogacara or the Chittamatra position, this would also help to bring energy into your central channel. The benefit of practicing these things today in this day and age is we have incredible teachings on the inner practice that we can combine with the outer practice like has never been done before. So this is called Mahamudrasana. And you could spend just a few minutes every day cultivating this energy loop in your nervous system that could help you stay less reactive and living more in harmony with your values all day long. There's another technique that's called Mahabandha. And if you've heard of Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, and Jalandhara Bandha, this text goes into great detail on all three of them. Mahabandha is the combination of all three. So during an exhale, where you just allow the exhale to be a lot longer and softer, you might actually linger at the end of your exhale where the breath isn't moving. Here, if you lift the pelvic floor, you draw the navel in and up, and you tuck your chin slightly, engaging the muscles around the glottis. This is called Mahabandha. When you release the chin, release the navel, release the pelvic floor. Again, like on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being hardly any engagement, 10 is where you squeeze the life out of all those muscles. Aim for something like a 3 or a 4, where you feel the movement, but it doesn't overwhelm or upset your nervous system. This can powerfully not only move energy into the central channel, but keep it there. So by closing the central channel at the bottom, at the top, you're then basically trying to get all of the remaining energy into this intersection about 3 fingers below the navel, 3 fingers back, called the Triveni. And that's what Mahabandha is for. And there's another mudra or bandha that is in this text called Mahaveda. And this is actually in the Lady Naguma sequence, or when I learned it back in 2010, it was for Mula Bandha. And you can just watch me. Maybe don't do this one unless you really want to. But it's everything that I just said, where you gently exhale, hold the breath out. And while you apply Mula Bandha, lifting the pelvic floor, Uddiyana Bandha, drawing the navel in and out, Jalandhara Bandha, tucking the chin, you lift your spine up off the ground, and then you drop gently like this. And it can help send the energy right into the central channel. These are called small drops, by the way. From a purely physical perspective, small drops can help improve the strength of your spine, increases bone density with mild impact compression. But from an energetic, subjective experience, it's a profound way to shift your state of consciousness and to become firmly awake. I think that concludes my demo of those 3. Feel free to ask any questions if we can be of help.
Yeah. Awesome. It's a good time to transition to questions. Thank you for demoing. Let's look at the chat, or you can unmute, either one. Somebody asked, is there a connection? Boy, this is a rough question. Is there a connection between mudra and spiritual partners?
That's a good question. Yes.
To find the answer to that question, you will need to go to Hatha Yoga Pradipika Course 4, coming to you in the fall of 2024. It's a very controversial part, I would say, of this text. And some of the practices of this text were taken out because they were controversial and or because they were seen as sexual or inappropriate. And Geshe Michael will teach us the connection or a different connotation of mudra and spiritual partner. But let's leave that for chapter 4. Sorry. Are these mudras, the same done in the Lady Naguma. Yes. So when we talked about Mahabandha, uh, the big lock, the great lock, being comprised of three: Mula Bandha, the root; Uddiyana, flying up, bringing the navel back, towards the spine; and Jalandhara. Jala is water, the water holder or water catcher. Those are the three we practiced before. Michael, here's a question for you. In Mahabandha, is there a difference between bringing the energy or the attention to Triveni, the place you described, or bringing energy and attention to the heart? Okay, so when we're doing that practice of Mahabandha, when we're combining this idea of inner and outer methods, using our physical body with our mind to make these practices more powerful, is there a difference between where we do that in our body? Maybe one of the chakras, or in this case, the question says at that joint of the side channels in the center channel, or at the heart?
Excellent question. And that is mainly what a chakra is. It's an intersection of subtle energy channels crossing over the central channel. And there are multiple points along the central channel that one can focus their attention when doing these bandhas. But I'll just focus on the relationship between the Triveni and the heart. The anatomically, you have this muscle underneath your lungs called the diaphragm. And when you inhale, the diaphragm muscle contracts and it pulls your lungs down, causes your rib cage to expand. That's how you breathe in, feels tense. When you exhale, the diaphragm releases and it pushes the lungs back up to the heart. So the diaphragm muscle is actually right next to the heart, right underneath it. And as you're attempting to get all of the prana out of the two side channels into the Triveni, into the central channel, later on in chapter 4, we'll discuss the importance of being able to untangle all of the knots along the central channel so that you can move the prana all the way up the central channel and then all the way back down without any hindrances. So that's a really cool topic that I look forward to exploring.
Yeah. Okay, what's the benefit of taking this course and to know more about mudra and nada yoga? I think one of the benefits of this course specifically is that it's taught by Geshe Michael. And I don't mean that just because we're all fans or we're all followers or we all are in the Geshe Michael fan club. I mean it because it's very rare to get a teaching on this from anybody. To get in-depth teachings on the Hatha Yoga Pradipika is much, much more rare than the Yoga Sutra. And then personally, I believe to understand this text, it's a practice text. So you have to have done the practice. And so to find someone that has translated this, that has done the practice, that's also very rare. And so Geshe Michael translated this text from 3-year retreat, and where he spent 3 years doing the practices, 3 years in isolation, 3 years in deep retreat, and a lifetime of doing this practice. But specifically, we just had 6 days to experiment with some of the practices, and it was rushed. It wasn't enough. We were doing, you know, these kind of extreme cleanse day after day after day after day. It's not ideal, but that was all the time we had. It'd be much nicer to do one a month. And so when we're in deep retreat for not days, not months, but years, as I also was unbelievably fortunate to do, then we can really make friends with these practices and get to know them, and to feel the benefit, and then to talk about them from a place of authenticity. Plus, some of this text, the fourth chapter, is incredibly difficult to understand. The teachings on emptiness are very profound. So to have a teacher that's had his mind in these ideas for 40 or 50 years, constantly, constantly translating, constantly studying, constantly teaching, there's just very, very few scholars like Geshe Michael in the world. Um, and so to have somebody teach these texts with that spiritual resume, it's very, very rare. Um, and he last taught this text 15, 16 years ago. Um, so, and he's only taught it once. So I don't know. I've got I've got a big list of texts for him to translate and teach. So this might be our last chance to, this is our opportunity to learn this text and be the ones that carry on the lineage of Geshe Michael teachings. Um, it, I hate to say it, and I keep saying it. It might be the last time we get to study this with him. So that's one of the benefits of taking this course, is that it's an unbelievably rare opportunity. If you are interested in these subjects and you're interested in hearing them from Geshe Michael's perspective, the other thing that's kind of different is that he'll teach it from a perspective that we're familiar with, from the perspective of Tsongkhapa's teachings. And so it'll be, more in line with the worldview that I think most people on this call have. Um, okay, so that's one. For me, in my mind, that's the main thing. What are the other benefits? It's going to take your practice deeper, like we talked about, how to combine the inner methods and the outer methods, and how to take what we're doing to the next level, um, and to get an explanation on some subtle practices. So that brings us nicely into advertising the program. So let's take a look at the Connie and John Brady asset. So next week, 1 week today, we'll have our last pre-event webinar. And I'm really looking forward to this. I think it'll be a unique opportunity to hear personal insights from John Brady and Connie O'Brien. And they'll be discussing this, like I was talking about, the overlap between Hatha Yoga practices and Diamond Way practices. And I always, I always like to joke. I studied with Geshe Michael 15 years, all of the foundation practices I was supposed to do. And then we have this big event, and now I'm allowed to practice the Diamond Way practices, after 15 years of study. Um, had to do all my homework, had to do all my quizzes, had to go to the big retreats. And after 15 years of consistent, regular study, I was introduced to these Diamond Way practices. And I was sitting in class at Diamond Mountain and feeling how wonderful I am, how wonderful everything is. And then the next day, we went to a yoga studio, open to everybody, and he teaches the exact same practices. And I thought, oh my God, all these all of these people get to have the seeds to hear what took me 15 years of work. And so you can save 15 years of work and just come to hear Connie and John talk about this overlap, or come to chapter 3 and really get some insights into Diamond Way practices, especially this third course and the next one, course 4. So they'll be talking next week, same time, um, about this beautiful overlap between these two systems of practice, and really sharing some of their personal insights into a lifetime of experiencing these practices. And then the week after that, we will start the course with Geshe Michael. There's Geshe Michael. Oh, he's transformed into a duck. No, the week after that, we'll start the course called Chakra and Sacred Sound. Um, January 18 to 29. Geshe Michael will teach this course in Sedona live. You're welcome to come and participate live. It's a very beautiful experience. And then, of course, and it's very small group. There'll be 20 of us in the room with him. It's a very unique opportunity to hang out with Geshe Michael in a small setting. It's not a 5,000 person auditorium. It'll be 20 of us at the college, and then of course online it'll be translated in 7 languages. Um, and you can sign up with the QR code. You'll get directed to your language group. So if you're a German speaker and you follow this QR code, you will then be directed to how to sign up for the German program or the Chinese program, the Vietnamese program. Then this program it's a very extensive program. There will be daily meditation and daily yoga class. And those meditations and those yoga asana classes will be very much tailored to the poses of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, to the practices in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. So a really, it'll be a very cohesive, integrated program. So there'll be meditation, there'll be yoga, there'll be Geshe Michael's class. Then there will be Michael Johnson will teach a Sanskrit class, where we do a little bit of chanting, where we'll be doing a little bit of chanting. Michael Johnson, always trying to get him to chant a little bit more. It's so beautiful. And he'll be going over the Sanskrit of the text, teaching us how to make the sounds of the Sanskrit, which also ties into the Nada yoga practice that we'll do in chapter 4. And and then I'll do a review class of Geshe Michael's teachings. So there's 5 components: yoga, meditation, Geshe Michael's class, my review of Geshe Michael's class, and Michael Johnson's Sanskrit class. So there's a lot there. And, we shouldn't feel pressured of, oh my God, I can't take 10 days off and do everything. That's okay. It's impossible to find a time that fits everyone's time zone. So some people will have access to the recordings. If they can't join at 3 in the morning, there will be recordings to access it. Like I said, in 7 languages. And then the most important thing is that the early bird price ends in 2 days. So if you would like to register, sooner is cheaper. There is scholarships available. I know it's hard to do everything in time wise, but also financially. And the most important thing is for YSI is to get everybody in the class. And there's extensive scholarship program that everybody is welcome to apply for if you need the help. And it's also everyone is welcome to contribute towards for those that need the help. So the retreat we just did, probably half the people had some assistance with the scholarship fund that people have been contributing towards. So it's really been helpful when we have these fundraisings for the scholarships that allow people to take these programs. So that's what we have coming up. So next week, Connie and John Brady. The week after, Geshe Michael and the team. Really want to thank you, Michael, for joining us today, and look forward to your teachings coming up. And again, thank you, translators. Um, hopefully that was a realistic pace. And want to thank the distributors who are help bring people to these teachings. Again, thank you, Frank and Sophie and Benji, for doing all the hard work behind the scenes. And, of course, I want to thank Geshe Michael for doing all of the hard work behind the scenes originally in the development of this course and teaching the course. And really look forward to being able to receive the teachings from him again. So thank you for joining, and really happy New Year. It's beautiful to see your faces again, and looking forward to this opportunity to start the year off to share in these teachings, and to start the year off right. And thank you very much for being here. I look forward to studying with you all and to sharing in these teachings with you.
Thank you, Earl.